Hello, everyone, and welcome to InvenTank. I'm Lisa Lloyd, and we're live streaming today on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And you can also find us on major podcast platforms like Spotify, Pandora, and iHeartRadio. Joining me today is my guest host, Richard Haasnoot. He is the former vice president of marketing at Procter & Gamble, as well as E&J Gallo Winery. Richard's also the founder of Innovate to Grow Experts, which is a boutique front-end innovation firm working with well-known brands like American Express, Nestle, Google, Gatorade, just to name a few. Holy cow, names we all know and love. And in a moment, I'm going to open everything up, folks, to our live Q&A. So at any time, feel free to drop your questions in the comment in the chat boxes. I'll see them here and we'll take them in the order that they are received. But before I do that, thank you so much again for being here, Richard. I appreciate you. You know I do. Richard is also my mentor. Very grateful. Just a really quick background. When we met, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I had just come back from New Orleans and was just kind of getting replanted in the community and reached out to Richard, and he was kind enough to have a cup of coffee. And I felt like just sitting at his feet and listening to him. I could have for days. Richard's experience, he's just such a wealth of information, which is awesome. But there's a lot of people with information. The real secret sauce, in my opinion, to his genius is his heart and his compassion and his empathy. His insights come from inside, not just in here. But I appreciate him very much. And so I thought I would just kick things off by sharing Richard's video from his website so you can get to know a little bit more about what they do at Innovate to Grow Experts. And then we're going to share some really awesome stuff that Richard's prepared in advance. So let me hit share my screen here. Feel free to drop a comment or a question. I'm sorry. Feel free to drop your name. That's what I meant to say. And where are you joining me from? Just so I can know you hear me okay in the comments.
Every innovator dreams of showing their latest innovation to a potential customer and hearing them say, wow, where can I buy that now? Unfortunately, that dream can quickly turn into a nightmare. In fact, for over 55 years, 75% to 90% of all innovations have failed. They failed because their innovations were not better enough to motivate customers to switch from their current solutions. So, how do you create innovations that get customers to say, wow, and make the switch? In today's fast-moving and competitive landscape, it requires fast, multidimensional innovation. Your solutions must provide highly meaningful benefits that add up to being dramatically better than your competition. You're at the highest risk for failure when your solutions are anything less than dramatically better. Innovate to Grow Experts is the only consultancy capable of delivering dramatically better innovation results in 90 days or less and validated by an independent research company. Guaranteed. That is the Innovate to Grow Experts dramatic difference. Using the 8 most proven innovation best practices, Innovate to Grow Experts, experienced and successful team of professional innovators work with client teams to consistently deliver wow, competitive advantage innovations. We've led more successful projects than any other team in the country, including the success of multiple products earning more than $100 million in year 1 sales. We invite you to schedule a free 60-minute online meeting with Innovate to Grow Experts CEO Richard Haasnoot to learn more about the 8 most proven innovation best practices our team uses to consistently deliver dramatically better innovation results in 90 days or less. Guaranteed.
All right. So there you go. 8 most proven innovation best practices that large organizations from really well-known brands, and yet there's still this, there's still this huge failure rate, even with them having their budgets and their teams and their expertise and everything. So Richard, thank you again for being here today. Which one of those best practices are you going to share with us?
Well, before I do that, I want your audience to know 2 things.
Okay.
Lisa created and produced the video.
I wasn't going to say that.
And Lisa created and produced my logo. So her fingerprints are all over a great, to the extent that was a great job. She did a great job of doing that
Thanks,
together.
Richard.
So it's good to be back with you. This is, as Lisa has made clear, I'm really focused on innovation with large companies for the most part. The client list that we've done over the last 30 years with the team is truly extraordinary, and very proud of the work that we've done. Having said that, I really, really love the spirit of individual inventors, which is why I love being here to help Lisa, because she is talented beyond talented, and I mean that very sincerely. She is understands the market from a standpoint that I don't know anyone else that does it. And there are some professionals in the field of helping individual inventors that should be sitting at the foot of the chair she sits in to learn from her. And I'm not exaggerating anything here. I mean, she's smart, she's experienced, and she's a heck of a good human being. You don't find that package in every person walking on planet Earth. So, having said that, let me talk to you about what I want to share with you today. One of the 8 proven innovation best practices. These are best practices that, this isn't about Richard. This is Richard working in the industry for 30 years and finding best practices that have been used in other areas by other people and bringing them all together under one umbrella called Innovate to Grow Experts. And the one I want to talk to you today about is what's called the 30 dimensions of value. This was a major consumer research project done and published in the Harvard Business Review. And here's the premise. I want to position this and how this can help you. I'm going to share with you what these 30 most important values are. And here's my intent. If you can help the customer, if first of all, if one of these values is relevant to the type of product you're selling, and you can help the customer with one of these values, you will have a lot of confidence that you're helping them in an area that's very important to them, probably not just in this product, but also more broadly across other products and maybe even their life. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's how important these values are. So let me give you an example. One of the 30 dimensions of value is what's called a functional value. And that is, if with your product, could you come up with an innovation that saves a dramatic amount of time, saving time for people when they do a particular task? We're all pressed for time in our lives. And if you can cut something from a 30-minute process to a 10-minute process, you are going to get someone's attention. Now, you got to deliver the quality and other things with it. But that one dimension is going to speak to many, if not most, of your customers. Okay. Another one, simplifies. How often do you get a product and you go, the person who wrote the instructions in a 2-point font on this package, which how am I going to read this? Probably has used this product 100 times and wrote these instructions like you should know. Well, yeah, no, it's not. How can you simplify the use of the product that you're looking to innovate? If you already have a product that you've invented, look at it and say, is there something you could add on to that product that would help people save time in doing the job that your product is designed to do, that simplifies the process that they're going to use? So you get a sense of what these 30 dimensions of value, and I'm just going to run through a couple more. I'll run through a list here just to give you a sense, and we'll have a reference to where you can learn about all these. But here are some of the functional values. Makes money. Reduces effort, avoids hassles, reduces cost, has great variety, sensory appeal. Let me give you some emotional values that are important. Reduces anxiety. Nostalgia. Not so much. Badge value. Now, if there are some products that badge value, is what it's all about. Wellness, fun, and entertainment. Is there some way that you can, in the product that you're looking at inventing, or maybe you've already invented, that takes it from a bit of a task to something that is actually fun? I'm not saying that's easy, but if you can take a task that's kind of arduous and turn it into something that's fun and easy, all of a sudden you're going to capture people's attention. I mean, I can stop doing this and do that. Sign me up. Okay. So those are some of the elements that are there. Now, I want to shift gears for you because I want to share with you an insight that I gained in my 26 years at Procter & Gamble and then at Gallo that absolutely stunned me when I learned this. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you the name of 3 products, and I'm going to ask you to identify what value, what something that's very important, the same important element that's important in these 3 very different products. Dawn dishwashing detergent, Pampers diapers, and Gallo Chardonnay. What do they have in common that's very, very important to customers?
Dawn dishwashing detergent, the wine,
Pampers diapers,
and Pampers.
and Gallo
They're all
Chardonnay.
consumables.
In a sense, yes.
Okay. You mean in terms of dimensions of value, what's the most?
Yeah. When people buy the product, what is the one thing in common across those 3 products that is very important to customers? Dishwashing detergent, Pampers, and Gallo Chardonnay. Here's what it is. And this, when I learned it, it just sinked in, and it is extremely important. It's one word: convenience.
Convenience.
Okay. When you do,
how's the Chardonnay? I was thinking about that, but how's the Chardonnay fall under convenience?
Yeah, that's a great question because I have the same question.
Okay.
I've been involved in research on all those brands.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the research that we did at Procter is, hey, what's most important to you when you buy the product? And you get this hierarchy. The most important thing to me is this, and this, and then you list. Convenience was always in the top 3 for these 3 products. And I looked at it and went, dishwashing, yeah, you want to be convenient. Pampers, I guess, in having 2 daughters and now grandkids, and by the way, years ago I became a great grandfather. I can't say that I have a tremendous amount of experience. My lovely wife, Patricia, is a lot more skilled at this than I am. But I still went, huh? And then I went out to Gallo and I looked at the same research out there in Gallo, and I saw the word convenience I was actually number 2 on the list of things that were most important to them. And like Lisa, I went, huh? Convenience? And then I stopped and thought, here's what's so difficult about wines. How do you make the right decision about the right wine for when you're having guests over? And how the heck do you open this package that's got a cork in it? Give me a screw cap. Come on. This sort of thing. So the ease of finding it, the ease of serving it, the ease of making the right decision, all this sort of stuff, it became very important to wine consumers to have something that was more convenient than complex and difficult.
Right.
Okay? And if you look at where the wine category has gone, this goes back many years. Back, when I was working at Gallo in the 1800s or something like that, way back. And the wine category has changed so much to be able to address that either directly or inadvertently. You had the emergence of box wines. So much, no cork to undo. You just put the glass underneath, push the button, and you got wine in your glass. Easier sorts of purchase decisions. It wasn't complex. They weren't trying to be, hooty-tooty varietals and all this other sorts of stuff. So there are values like that are important to people. And I'm going to suggest to you in all of my research and people that I've talked to over the years, that word convenience is something that is very important to people. And as you take a look at your innovation, is there something that you can do to make your product more convenient to use? I talked earlier about saving time and simplifying. These are all questions that you might want to ask yourself as you're looking at an innovation, or you're looking at a product that you're using that you think is a big problem and then you say this statement, there must be a better way of doing this. By the way, because it motivates me a lot of times. Oh,
Yeah.
come on, there must be a better way of doing it. And the answer probably is yes, there must be a better way. And so these are some of the words that values that you can look at and say, okay, as I take a look at trying to improve this experience, how could I save time? How could I simplify? How could I reduce cost? How could I make it more convenient? How could I make it something that reduces anxiety, on and on, these 30 dimensions of value? So that's where these values come into the creative process. And when we're working with major clients, and especially in the pre-work before we go into a creative session, we're really looking at, for this type of product and the research and everything that we know, where are the opportunities for innovation, major improvements, okay? And often, as Lisa has talked about in the video and everything, and I did too, what you're trying to do is get an innovation that's dramatically better than what's out there today, okay? Here's a key insight. You're probably not going to get to dramatically better with one innovation, okay? The iPhone was 5 different types of innovation, okay? 5 different ways it was improved versus the flip phone that was in existence when the iPhone was introduced, okay? So that's why you want to look at multiple values. Can I simplify with an innovation, save time, on and on? You want multiples of these together. So I have the Innovation Best Practices podcast. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. By the way, for those of you out there, thank you to the listeners in 143 countries for this, by the way. And Lisa's just put up on episodes 184 and 185. You can learn more about that also. So the values that are most important.
I also have, let's see here, just the 30 dimensions of value pyramid. So maybe you can take us through, just when you're talking about these, you say more than one is better, Richard. How do you know when you've hit enough of these elements to be dramatically better? You've got the wow finally.
Yeah, it's a good question. The first thing you need to start with is research, and some either qualitative or quantitative, among the people that are using the type of product that you're looking to innovate, and find out what's most important to them. Because, for example, badge value is something that's important to some people in some types of products, and other things, I don't give a darn if it's got badge value or not. I really don't. So you need to find out which of these values are most important to the user of the type of product that you're doing. Some of them are going to be common sense. Most of the time, if you can save time in the use of a product, is going to be pretty important. So you probably want to identify 5 to 6 of these values that are important to people, and then looking at opportunities to improve the performance of the existing products with your innovation on those 5 dimensions. And the challenge becomes, how much of an improvement can you make? For example, saves time. Can I save you 2 minutes on a 20-minute job? Yeah, it's nice, but probably gets lost in the mix of things. It's not a big thing. So you want to see if you can make significant major improvements. You want to get at least to significant improvements on, say, 3, 4, or 5, whatever that is. And when you add up all those differences, your chances of getting to wow are pretty good. If you can get a 20, 30, 40% increase on each of those 3 or 4, it's going to add up to people. You can do that, and you can do that, and at the same time, I don't lose any quality, and I don't have to pay any more for it. Where do I buy this? Right. I was watching a infomercial yesterday, and I'm ticked off. I really liked the product they were selling. It had multiple advantages, and it was gone before I remembered the website. I'm not going to remember the telephone number.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm now sitting there. Come on, what kind of program do we need to watch?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure whoever did that direct response campaign is salivating hearing that and hopes that it's them. So I just want to remind everybody, drop your questions in the comments and we'll take them in the order they receive. Richard's going to tag team answering those questions. No invention question is off limits here. So it doesn't have to be specifically what we're talking about. I don't want to help you be successful. Richard, you've told me the story about the 20% improvement. I think it was Colgate or Crest. I don't remember which toothpaste it was. So when you talk about a 2-minute improvement over maybe a 50% improvement, when does it become enough, and how do you know? How can you measure that?
Yeah. I'm going to give this to you in a general way with a qualitative experience that I had.
Sure.
One of the things over the years when I've talked to larger groups, I've asked to demonstrate this. I've asked for somebody in the audience to identify themselves as a loyal Crest toothpaste user or Colgate toothpaste user. And once somebody's been brave enough to raise their hand, they ask questions. Like, how long have you been using? I want to make sure that you're a real loyal user. And once they've identified that, so I've got a Colgate user, okay? And I'm going to try and switch them to Crest. So I say to them, okay, I am the Crest brand manager, and I'm going to try and convince you to switch from Colgate to Crest. And I can deliver to you today a product that has 25% more fresh mint taste than your Colgate product. Will you buy it? Nobody. I've been doing this for decades. Nobody buys. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this next product is going to get you to buy. Okay. I've got another product in the lab. I can deliver it to you next month that has 50% more whitening power than your current Colgate product. Will you buy? All the years I've done it, that loyal Colgate user, not even I think about it.
Wow.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I say, okay, you got me. I got one more. I know this is going to get you. Okay. I have a product I can deliver to you 3 months from now. It's still in the lab. You'll be the first one to get it. Okay. And it reduces cavities 75% more than your Colgate product. Now, I know you're going to buy this. Are you going to buy it? And I look at them and they go,
wow.
Okay. Now, that's qualitative experience, but I want to share with you something that I was a brand manager at Procter & Gamble, and I had a Barso brand. It was my first brand manager job. And so I did the same thing. I did research to figure out why were people using a product like Dial. And so I could learn what could I do to switch them. And the number one reason people were using Dial, this was not my most encouraging day, by the way. The reason most encouraging day was when I learned that the number one reason people were using it was mom recommended it.
Wow. It's what they grew up with.
I had to overcome mom's recommendation to get them to buy my product.
Wow.
Now, that's a steep hill. What I'm trying to share with you here is it just underscores what Lisa's been talking to you. If you're going to be successful with an innovation, you need to get people to switch from the product they're currently using to your product. That is not easy. You just need to look into your own buying experience. Most products you're on autopilot when you go to the grocery store. I buy the orange package of Tide every time I go in. Okay. I don't even look at anything else. Okay. So that's why getting to wow is so important.
I think so many inventors, I know in my experience, I talk to inventors almost every single day, and they most often come to me with, how do I get my product license? And so I'm getting them at the tail end, not at the front end of their innovation process. And as part of our discovery in that call, I want to understand what they did on the front end to evaluate the marketplace, because in order to more effectively help them get it licensed, I need to communicate why people will make that switch to the company, or the company's not going to be interested. That's a business case that every company has to make internally, right?
Yeah.
Or against a product. And I hate to say this, but literally every single person I've talked to in 30 years has never done any true customer insights interviews, the type of thing that you're talking about, to get the qualitative data back. And so asking them those questions, I think, is certainly a really important part of the best practices overall in licensing. And the 30 dimensions of value, I think, help us identify what we're chasing after.
Yeah.
So doing those interviews from a large company where they even still have that high potential failure rate. And by the way, I think you know this, Richard, we've talked about it in the past, but it's been a while. For independent inventors to succeed, it's usually 2 to 3% is the number people throw around for success rate. And large companies aren't much better at only, 10 to 15% success rate.
Yeah.
Sometimes 20, I guess, depending on the company. But my guess is that the ones that have the higher success rate, even at 20%, meaning 80% failure, are doing these best practices, right? And in the early days, when you had that challenge and you said, well, the ones that are succeeding, when you had the challenge, I see the look on your face of being given soap to deal with, and you got to come against that particular challenge of getting past the brand loyalty. What do you want to find out earlier rather than later, after you spend a lot of time and money on an idea, that will help you define whether or not you have enough dimensions of value to get people to make the switch? And I want to say, for my audience, before you answer, Richard, I'm sorry, but for my audience sake, I know you think you're inventing to get a company to license, but that's irrelevant. That's a path to market. You're inventing to get consumers to buy your product. And so they're your first customer. And if you can demonstrate why customers will buy it, then companies are going to license it. So that's why I talk more about that. So having said that, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to get to your question here in a minute, but I want
to way around the mountain.
Yeah, I want your individual inventors that are listening to this to not feel like they're highly unusual. Here's a fact, okay? Fewer than 2% of the colleges and universities in the United States of America offer a major in anything approaching innovation best practices. 98% don't come even close. So if you want to be educated in what it takes to be successful in innovation, good luck by going to college. Now, I was a professor at Arizona State University in School of Management for 6 years, and Arizona State is consistently voted as having the best innovation curriculum in America.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say that their curriculum, course 1, starts as follows. Now that you have a good idea, here's what you do. So they go screaming past the stop sign that says, do you really have a good idea?
Good idea, right.
Okay. No, they go like the people that call you, I want to license this, okay?
Right, yeah.
So innovation best, I'm going to add one other thing here.
Please.
Every single year, the major McKinsey, Deloitte, and all these companies do surveys of CEOs. And every single year for the last 10 years, when they ask these CEOs, what is most important to you? Innovation is either number 1 or number 2 on their list of 10 things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's extremely important, but nobody knows how to successfully innovate.
Mm-hmm.
We have put a proposal forward this week to a major international consumer products company who will remain unnamed, that have taken us through their innovation process, and my other senior expert, and Carrie McNamara, and we get off the call and we go, oh my God. And so innovation best practices are a very powerful, magical tool. And I mean magical in the sense that when you really do them well, you will be successful. Is using them easy? No, didn't say that. But they are the right tools to get the right result. Now, let me come back to what Lisa was asking. If my 105-year-old memory will.
Oh my God, if you can remember, I'll be really impressed, because I don't even know if I remember. I'm so into what you're saying.
Well, I think you were talking what snacks we would have after the call. No.
Yeah.
I shared that story that I did because not a lot of companies do the kinds of things that I'm talking about here. They really don't. And I have a podcast in the Innovation Best Practices called The Curse of the Expert. And this is what companies, they kill themselves. They think they know what they don't know.
Yeah. And
they don't. Because heck, who knows more about shampoo than we do?
Right.
So many times they don't do the kinds of research that we're talking about here. to find out what's the most important. They don't do likes and dislikes. I learned all this at Procter because Procter was just the absolute best practices place of the world when it came to consumer research, habits and practices, how people were changing, likes, dislikes, just all kinds of innovative research, qualitative, quantitative. So I learned a lot. And then I had a member of my team who's just one of the top consumer research experts in the nation. So we have great appreciation for understanding how the consumer thinks about this. So the answer to your question is not a lot do. But the ones that are really good at it really do quality research to make sure they understand where the opportunities might lie.
And that quality research is probably mostly software driven, or does that include?
It's all gone online. It's all that, that it used to be questionnaires on the telephone until nobody answered them, and until there were no more landline phones. So
Yeah.
So that put that out of business. So yeah, it's if you, I would urge your audience to be patient, get the idea right first before you go rushing to knock on doors. I understand. I truly understand the urge to go do that. Okay, I really do. Okay, but what you want more is you want a successful idea. And Lisa's quoted to you the incredibly small percentage that aren't. And if you look at what she's sharing with you, the innovation best practices that are on my website and on the podcast and everything, you can educate yourself. And just through educating yourself about the best practices that are out there, you're going to take yourself from here in the community of inventors to out of this screen. Okay.
Right on.
And does that guarantee success? No, I'm sorry. This is not take this pill, drink a glass of water, and magic will happen. It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of thinking, and it takes a lot of heart to figure it out.
If you're just joining us, I want to remind you that you can drop your questions in the comments. I'm wondering if I'm having technical difficulties because I haven't seen one come in yet. At least say hi to me. Tell me where you're joining us from so I know you're hearing us okay, because this is the first time this has ever happened. Richard, you're talking about empathy, really. It's the bottom line. Yeah. And empathetic innovation, unfortunately, I think can become quickly short-minded by an independent inventor, someone who's never done this and just has an idea. The empathy they're drawing from is their own, what I need, what I wish I had, right?
Yep.
So we started doing customer interviews and asking people very early on, what do you do when? And we present the problem, and in hearing back from them what they use, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and why, we can, along with, of course, some other strategic questions, we can then move forward with the R&D phase of looking for not only the competitive landscape that aims to solve those problems the way that everyone, including me as the inventor, needs it and would like to have it solved, but it allows us then to develop very specifically. And so in some cases, that could be, thank you, Rick, for letting me know. I appreciate it. Welcome from Texas. It can also be something that needs to be, it can just have like one value proposition, right? It just needs to be big enough to cause someone to make that switch from their brand loyalty. What happens if the most common thing, I've invented something and there's nothing like it. That's something that comes up a lot.
I'm scared by that.
No.
There's probably a reason there's nothing like it on the one hand.
That's the first question, right? Why?
Yeah. It's there's a reason. The fact that there's nothing like it is not a selling point. I'm sorry. It's
but on the other hand,
but it's not going to guarantee you success. If you say there's nothing like it at reducing cost and saving time by 50%, then I'm going to start taking interest. If there's nothing, in other words, the benefits that you're delivering, if there's nothing like the benefits that you're delivering for this product, then I'm interested.
Love the way you said that.
Weird. I'm not going to be interested.
Right. No, I love that. But then you have phrases like disruptive innovation. Mm-hmm. So that was coined, I believe, originally by Clayton Christensen, right? In the Harvard Business Review. When is it disruptive, and how do you go about identifying up front in the value pyramid that we just looked at, in fact, I'll pop that back up in a second as you answer. How do you evaluate something that's really, truly disruptive? Obviously, there's never going to be nothing like it out there. Even if with the Swiffer, people were using socks on their own hands before they had something, as an example, there was nothing like that. So how do you evaluate something like that in the early stages using the value pyramid?
Yeah, the best example comes from disruptive innovations. What do they teach us? The iPhone was an absolutely disruptive innovation when you consider that what was in business when they came out that had an 85% share was flip phones. And Apple, as I said, came out with 5 different innovations, all packaged together in a way that displayed itself. Remember that first ad that you saw for an iPhone? Just remember the first time and your finger is swiping and things are and these little squares are on the screen. What's that all about? Okay. It just the display of it kind of captured and said, I want to learn more about this. And it does this and does that. And you learn that, ultimately learn that apps can do everything from be a flashlight to diagnose cancer. Mm-hmm. Woo! Can a flip phone do that? No, it can't do it. Okay. So you have that experience. I'll take a more recent one, and one that I'm very biased on, which is the story of Tesla. Somebody asked Elon this week, hey, I noticed you didn't run an ad on the Super Bowl. He says, yep. No, we're going to take all the money that we would have paid for advertising and put it into more innovation and improvements in the car. And what the car that he introduced, you can look at it and say, okay, it's got 4 wheels, it's got propulsion, it'll take you from point A to point B like any other car. Yeah, you're right. Okay, basically that does right. But then you have the experience of it, and I'm on my second Tesla, and I will never own anything else. They switched me from all other kinds of cars that I would ever do. And it's just, I'm not going to go into the experience of a Tesla, but it is dramatically different. My wife and I, for example, love to go down when we're at our home up in the mountains, go down to this lake and have a cup of coffee and overlook. And it's the only car in the world that you can sit there and watch Netflix or YouTube or something like that while you're doing it. It has a lot of other crazier things that it does. But anyway, so you can take a look at things that are disruptive. Now, Clayton Christensen, when he in Innovator's Dilemma articulated what disruptive innovation was, had a very narrow definition of what disruptive was. And he essentially said it's people who, his examples that he used were people that were had very complex products with lots of services wrapped around a core, and the disruptive innovators stripped all that other stuff out and just delivered the key thing. So delivered the key benefit people wanted at a much lower price. And so they changed the value equation on the product. Okay. You're going to pay less and you don't have to pay for all this other stuff that's around it, which happens to mature products, by the way. Anyway, very big mature products to appeal to a broader, smaller and smaller segments that they can add on business. They add all these other things on, but they cost money. So that was his original definition of what disruptive innovation is. I view disruptive innovation as a competitor who's sitting at their desk on Monday morning and up on the screen pops, company XYZ is doing this, and they go, OMG. All of a sudden, I think I'm approaching a disruptive innovation. So it's the kinds of companies that we've talked here. I mean, Starbucks disrupted the way people experienced and paid for coffee. If you bought Folgers and made coffee at home, I think the equation was you probably spent 10 or 15 cents or 20 cents for making a cup of coffee at home, and you went to Starbucks and you were willing to pay $3, $4, $5 for something that didn't taste like coffee in many cases. So, I mean, it's just take a look at the examples that are out there, and there's several. I have some on my website too, that if you want to learn about how to be disruptive and to bring disruptive back. Disruptive is wow. Okay.
Disruptive is at the end of the day, right? Even if that's just one small change that makes that dramatic difference. So Rick is saying, I'm a big fan of Clayton Christensen, have a disruptive product and lots of resistance in a conservative market. And I want to do a little experiment. If you're okay with it, Rick, I will post a link in here. You just need to let me know for you to join us. So you can pop up on the screen with us. You can use your video or not, whatever you're more comfortable with. But I'd love to unpack that a little bit more, because when we get into disruption, the challenges that we face are going to be so unique to every single product. And I'd love to address this and find out where you're having resistance. And we can come back to it. So you let me know if that's okay. And I'll pop the link in here for you to join us. You mentioned something earlier, Richard, that it was just before that question, in fact, that value proposition is what you're putting out in front. And so this gets missed a lot, of course, in our business. When we're licensing, we have a sell sheet, and that sell sheet has the, I can pull up his website. I'll come back to that in a moment. Our sell sheet has to start off and really feature the sizzle. You're selling the sizzle to get them to have that call with you. How can you use something like the value pyramid and whatever elements happen to be on it that are related or relevant to your product to massage in, or would you even recommend massaging that into your value proposition statement on your sell sheet? Or is it something that should be intrinsic and obvious with just a couple bullet points?
No, I think you need to be a bit more overt when you're communicating on a sales sheet. You can't assume that the person that's looking at it is going to know what the heck you're talking about. And so sizzle, I think, another thing I want to make a point here is there are functional and logical values, like saves time. And then there are emotional values, okay?
Right.
The emotional experience of using a product. And don't ever forget that. Now, the emotional experience varies in different types of products, but in most products, there's a logical component and an emotional component in terms of the benefits and values that people are looking for. So make sure that you pay attention to those also. But no, I think my experience, I started my career at Procter in sales, and it was always leading with the biggest possible news. So if they listened to me for only 10 seconds, they would hear the best 20 words that I could give them on it to get attention. You need to get attention legitimately and credibly and truthfully. But once you've done that, then maybe they'll give you permission to listen to the other 3 minutes of what you're trying to get done, if that answers your question.
Got to catch them, right? Because when that product, in the same way, when that product is on a shelf, you only have a few seconds to get their attention.
You don't have a few seconds. You have 1 to 2 seconds. So you better make it quick. And sometime we can talk about the battle on the shelf. That's an incredibly difficult environment. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rick shared his website, and I'm taking a look at it here. Rick, I'll pull it up and share with everyone in just a moment. But if you could put a more specific, give me a little bit more specific information on what kind of resistance you're getting, because clearly the gun market is a very conservative market, then I'll be happy to pull that. We'll come back to that and see if we can address your question for you. Richard, I know that you've produced Super Bowl commercials in the past. So you've done the front end as well as then had to execute later. Do you find that there's that recurring theme from the value pyramid that almost like a mission statement becomes an intrinsic part of everything that you do? Or is it just kind of a one and done? We thought about it up front. Now we have different levers and switches to pull to make this successful.
The most successful innovation that I've been associated with is projects where there was continuous innovation. Let me tell you what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
The starting point is a written concept statement that says exactly what the product does and what it delivers and why people would buy it and all that sort of good stuff. And you do research and people love the concept. Okay, well, the next step in the process is develop a prototype, anywhere from looks like to an actually operating prototype. And then you take that to customers. And what I've found is when I entered the prototype stage, not with, well, my goal here is to replicate the product from the concept, is no, my goal here is to build that and then learn from that to how I can make it even better. That's the part that you need to do. And that part plays out through the entire process. Most of my career, I loved innovation, had a lot of very successful innovations, is taking them from the idea to the prototype, getting them ready for marketing, packaging, pricing, marketing materials, advertising, all that sort of everything, massive stuff that needed to go, because all of the products I was working on were essentially nationally advertised products from either Procter & Gamble or Gallo. And so each step of the way, I would always look for how can we make this even better. And when I went to Ernest Gallo and we were introducing a major new product that was a major strategy shift for the brand, a strategy shift that he was very personally resistant to. And I went in and told him that the timing of everything we were doing, and I recommended that we develop a Super Bowl commercial. And he said, "Oh, you just want to develop a commercial? That's fine." And I said, "Well, the media cost is modestly different than you're accustomed to, Ernest."
Yeah.
He was owner of the company, so this was out of his pocketbook. And when he asked, I'll never forget, "Richard, how much is this going to cost?" And I told him. He said, "For 30 seconds? They want money?"
What was it back then?
Well,
That was a while.
I survived the attack of Italian enthusiasm, I guess I'll put it that way, from Ernest, and he agreed, and we had a very successful Super Bowl commercial.
That's awesome. So you continue to innovate, in other words, every step of the way.
Yes, every way. It just says, okay, I've got an innovation to here, but now I'm going to learn. I'm going to go to consumers. They're going to look at it. I'm going to look for opportunities to make it even better. In fact, I may wake up the next day not having talked to any consumers, and I get this light bulb of an idea and say, and we should do this to make it even better. You just need to, you don't close the door on innovation once you say, I've got the idea. Continuous innovation is what you want to do.
And that's great if you're bringing it to market yourself.
Yeah, to an extent, and depends on how much. I mean, you know this far better than I do, how much you're involved in the licensing agreement, but and the process that from there. But you really want to encourage, and I think the licensing company too is going to be looking for opportunities to improve it also, either whether it's cost or functionality or how they talk about it, et cetera. So.
Right. And if you're an inventor and you want to license your product and you've thought through the product itself, but maybe in the course of your doing your due diligence, it occurred to you that aligning with a certain strategy similar to something else that was successful maybe in another category made sense, then bringing that up and certainly educating the company that you're pitching on the possible methods to go to market with could be helpful. So maybe it's a recurring box program, the mailbox type stuff where you get this every month and it has new stuff in it, or it has an iteration on it or something like that, whether it's marketing or whether it's even a slogan. People often ask if we should trademark it. I don't necessarily recommend that you invest in that because companies won't pay for it. But if it's a good idea, they'll still use it. So for sure, anything that you've considered that could be helpful in helping them all go through the rest of the process on the road to market, I would encourage you to bring those up in those conversations. Okay, so Rick has this new gun. I don't think I need to bring it up at the moment, but it is interesting, Richard, because he's talking about how people resist new. So what are the secrets to helping overcome the challenges? Back to your brand. We're not even talking about brand recognition anymore. And maybe it would be helpful. I'll just share it really quick to be on the same page. So this product obviously is in a different category. It is called the Sharper Shooter. And as you can see, it's an additional, feature on a gun. And then he has additional variations on it for obviously the different types of guns. So way outside the scope of what people are using. He's asking people, especially in a very conservative business category, I should say, to move their cheese pretty far. How do you address something like that?
Maybe you are, maybe you're not. and I don't know much about this industry. I think an outsider's observation is that there's a modest amount of innovation at best that goes on. And so there may be a resistance to that. I also want to point out a couple of other things for your listeners. Sometimes you can go to a company and you think you have a great idea, and let's assume for a moment you do have a great idea, and you get resistance from them. And that may be because they are following an innovation strategy called fast follower. They won't be the leader, the first one to introduce an innovation. But if someone else introduces an innovation and it's successful, they let somebody else do the test marketing and all that, then maybe they'll jump in with their own version of it. Yeah. So that's another condition and circumstance that you need to be aware of.
Which it sounds like maybe what he's needing to address, because he did attempt to license it, but he really needed to prove the market first. It sounds like he was talking to some fast follower type companies that weren't quite as disruptive or innovative in general. Don't know how to package it for the new consumer. Direct response products are great for that, because obviously they say it slices. You don't need to live with this problem anymore, because now you can have this.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Can you go back to the previous page on this?
I sure can.
Okay, just hold it there. Oops. Can I see the headline again? There you go. Roll. There, stop.
So take control of your sidearm with the sharper shooter, faster follow-up shots, up to twice as fast, increase your accuracy for quick transitions between targets, currently in use by multiple police departments. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think the benefits, here's some advice on benefits. Okay.
Yep.
If I tell you that you can get, fewer cavities from using this product, often a person's first inclination is, it's probably 5 or 10% fewer. Skepticism, they're just 5 or 10%. Okay. When in truth, it might be 30%, and you said more. So how you can take a benefit that you have and make it better, instead of making it general and unspecific, make it specific. If it's 30, 40% better, and you can document. By the way, the bigger your claim of improvement, the more documentation you're going to need to prove it. Okay. Because here's what's happened. The bigger your benefit communication, the stronger your reason to believe communication has to be, so I don't say BS. Okay.
Right.
So that's one thing I would look at this, and there is something here up to twice as fast that's on here. Increasing accuracy. How much? I mean, I'm just going to make numbers up. If I can go from hitting the bullseye on a target 20% of the time, and I'm now going to do it 40% of the time, if that's the improvement in accuracy that you're talking about, then my interest level has now gone up. Maybe it may not have gone up to the level that I say, boy, I got to have this, but all of a sudden my interest has gone up. So those are some of the things that, just looking at this, that I would suggest that with the existing positioning that you can do. Then you're faced with, as was stated, a conservative industry. Again, I don't know the industry, but there's lots of conservative industries that I have worked with that are not into innovation for a whole bunch of reasons. For example, if you're in a mature categories usually mean you have no new competitors coming in. There's 2 or 3 competitors at most, and all of you are making a lot of good money and spending a lot of time on the beach in Southern California. Okay.
Sure.
So why should I do this innovation stuff
and take that risk? Exactly.
Yeah. So there's lots of things that go on. The only thing you have control over is the kind of stuff that's on the screen here. Okay. And I'm just suggesting a couple of ways that this could be improved just based on what I'm seeing.
I had a guest on a few weeks ago, Ronan Coleman, who owns a electronic device for helping improve your shots and that sort of thing as well. I don't know if you caught that one, Rick, but he would be a good one to talk to. And if you haven't seen the show, let me know and I'll get you a link to that. But my 2 cents here is I wouldn't put a headline that says a grip that mounts to your trigger guard.
Yeah.
That's not a benefit. That's a what it does. That's a how, not a what, so to speak.
It's a feature, not a benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to lead with a benefit statement more about the improvement, the result. Think about the end result the promise that you're making that someone will get when they use yours, right? So what's that leading promise, followed by a series of small promises and or support that backs up your original promise, which is the data. And I did see here that you said that there's a video below here, and I'll scroll down to see if we can find that really quick. That shows, here we go. There's a 30% reduction in your coil. Great. Maybe move that up, because Richard, I'll let you explain the enough benefits that add up to dramatic enough difference and a reason to believe, right? Yeah. Tell us more about why that's so important.
Yeah, it starts with, we're not going to pay it. There's so much stuff that comes at us that we're not going to pay attention to it unless, one, if it's relevant to me. Okay, I'm not going to pay attention to Pampers ads anymore. That's good news. Okay, I'm not going to be doing that. So it's not relevant to me. But if you're talking to people for whom it's relevant to, you want to be able to communicate to them the kind of benefits that we're talking about that are important to them and that they will pay attention to. And then the next stage is you want to have a benefit that is a major improvement, hence dramatically better. But then people go, this is a infomercial, and can I trust these people? Or this is from a company I've never heard of. Can I trust these people? Yeah. And to get over that, you need to invest time and money and effort in creating a powerful reason to believe. And if you go on to the Innovation Best Practices podcast on early episode 3, 4, 5, something like that, I have a whole podcast on reason to believe. There's 5 different strategies that you can use to create a reason to believe, and use a mixture of those, and many as you can, to back up a strong benefit. So if you're making a big promise and people go, and you can do that, boy, that makes sense. Okay, all you have to do is get people, that makes sense. I'm going to take a look at that. But if it's just this big promise and not this, the other side of the equation, you're going to lose a whole bunch of people because they won't believe you. Too good to be true.
Too good to be true. That's what Mom taught us, right?
Yep. And wow products often are too good to be true. To be
true. If you've done it right, it should be. So that's a good problem to have.
Yes.
But we aren't doing enough to educate ourselves on how to overcome the very problem that we created for ourselves by inventing something that was dramatically better. It's an intrinsic problem in that solution. Okay, Rick, I did add the link here. It says there was a problem. Wait a moment. So it's there. You know what? I'll try it one more time. Add that to the chat. If that still doesn't work, it looks like that one went through. So there you go. There's a link directly to the one with Ronan, who invented a gun device, and he gave his email address or his phone number, I don't remember which, in the show. So you can reach out to him because he does know the space, and he does manufacture and sell, and he does trade shows, and he's one of the top sellers at Amazon in that space, which is interesting because Amazon doesn't sell weapons. Yeah. So he's a great contact. Good. I'm glad you got that, Rick. Wow. Richard, any last words for the good of the cause? I can't believe this is an hour already. Holy cow.
Wow.
I know. That flew by. Wow. There's that statement.
Yeah. Make that your mantra. And I know it's difficult. And do you push yourself to get there. You've got tools that you get from Lisa. You've got the Innovation Best Practices podcast, which is free and will always be free, that you can go and explore. There's over 300 episodes. I've stopped producing new episodes because there ain't any more Innovation Best Practices. So
awesome. Thanks so much for being here. I just want to remind everybody, if you want to book a free call with me after today's show, I would be more than happy to do that. You can go to theinventionaccelerator.com to either watch a free 1-hour course on how you can invent, patent, and license, or you can book a call with me from there, and I'd be happy to try and point you in the right direction. Thank you all for joining me. We'll see you next Wednesday. Have an awesome rest of your week. Bye.